Alright guys, welcome to Daddy Share Space. So this past Saturday I was doing some house cleaning. As you guys may know, or if you're new to this channel, I had a tree that fell in the front yard and I systematically cut it up, pulled it around to the back of the house, and then over the course of several days I had to cut it up into smaller pieces, and I bagged it all up. And then this past Saturday, I decided to take everything to the city dump. Now, a while back on my channel, I had made this gate on the side of the house, and that was because a storm actually blew the old gate down. And the components to that gate were like over on the opposite side of the house, just kind of sitting. And since I had to go to the dump anyway, I decided to gather up all this material and, take it to the dump. Now, also, one of the branches from the palm tree was kind of hanging down, so I had to pull out my pole saw. I had to cut that up and get that all processed to be able to go to the dump as well. I don't know how you guys handle cardboard boxes, but basically, since we're always getting a lot of packages, whether it be for homeschooling or just sometimes we'll use the delivery service, whether it be from the grocery store or Costco, and definitely we have Amazon Prime, so we're constantly getting boxes around the house. So I have to utilize the box cutter to cut up these boxes so that I can actually ship them out to the trash. So all of this stuff, is just kind of like a constant flow. So, I got up. I can't remember exactly what time I got up on Saturday, but I get up, and in my mind, I knew I wanted to clear out the garage to get a lot of those excess wood pieces out. I was hoping that I would be able to get all of the chunks out. The smaller pieces of wood, the stuff that I'm probably not going to use. And so I'm just kind of pushing myself to do this. My wife actually took the girls to the library on this Sunday, because they enjoy that. Every few weeks they go to the library and pick up a whole bunch of books. And sometimes I go with them, but since I had all this work to do, I stayed back and tried to get as much of this work done. So yeah, I'm just cutting up this, cutting up the boxes. Then I move on to cutting up the palm tree using my Milwaukee pruning saw. And then after I get all that cut up, then I decided, since I'm going to be getting this stuff out of here, that's when my mind shifted to trying to get that gate out of here, because it was just, I had kind of forgotten about it. It was just sitting on the side of the house on the ground in an area where, we don't actually frequent. And so I'm trying to basically finish off this Milwaukee 12-inch miter saw so I can actually dispose of that. And so I actually used it to cut up all the posts and all of the actual pieces of the fence to get them into smaller, more manageable pieces. And then all of that I loaded up into the back of the truck, along with the rest of the pieces of that tree, so that I could take it and get it all out of here. Now I ended up having to take 2 trips, because the actual dump that I went to, the first one, does not accept any kind of pressure treated material. So I had to take 2 trips. One of them was a lot farther away than the other one. And so that's pretty much what happened, on my whole Saturday, is basically me, managing that. And that was Saturday. And Sunday, I got up, I cut the yard. After I cut the yard, I moved on into, I decided to go ahead and change the oil on the truck because it needed to be done. And then you look up and it's Monday morning and you're back to, doing all your normal things. And then Monday I get home from work and I ended up going back out because I was unable to get all of the extra wood out of the garage simply because I had time constraints. Basically, the dump closes early on Saturday, and so I loaded up as much as I could, and then I shot off to the first dump, and then I had to rush back home. And once I got home, I had to load up that all of that fence material that was pressure treated, and then go to another dump that was even further away to get rid of that. Once I got all that squared away, I was considering taking the rest of the wood, or getting more of the wood that I need to get out of the garage and loading it back up in the truck. However, by that time, a lot of the day had already passed because it's just the way it works. That's the nature of work. Sometimes it takes several hours. So fast forward to Monday, as I was speaking about, and I still have a lot of wood that needs to go to the dump, and it was actually behind a whole bunch of sheet goods. And so you underestimate, or at least I've underestimated, time on so many occasions, and this is, no exception, where I come home from work and I'm trying to, I want to put up a video. So I actually came home and I was putting up a video, trying to put up a video on, I guess it was Sunday, but because I was so busy, cutting the yard and doing the oil change, I had to go get the stuff from the store, all of that type of stuff. That whole, video was actually shot that same day. And obviously when you try to record things, everything takes a little bit longer as well. Because I knew up front that I was not going to be able to do a regular video and then also do all my little chores, if you will. So I tried to turn my chores into a video. And even though I did that, I was not efficient enough to actually get it all done to where I could get the video uploaded on Sunday. And then because I've been trying to work on my consistency, so to me, efficiency and proficiency are extremely important to me. And on my day job, I feel like I'm pretty efficient and I'm pretty proficient, but on my in my home life, I feel like things are a bit helter-skelter. And one of those reasons being because I wear so many hats. And, I don't know if you guys have this similar issue, but basically, when you do your own lawn, when you are your own handyman, and then maybe you decide to, invest a little bit more time into, say, woodworking and that type of skill, and then you also decide that you're going to start a YouTube channel and a blog and try to produce content with all of those elements, what happens is you end up getting spread so thin that you're not nearly as effective in any of those areas. However, rather than just like throw in the towel and give up, on the fly, I've been trying to discover or create a workflow that is very similar to like going to work. I get up every morning about 4 a.m. to get prepared for work, and I usually leave the house around about 4:45 a.m. right? Even though I don't start work that early, simply because I'm more of a preparer, than maybe a lot of people. I remember a long time ago they used to have this commercial for the military, and it was like, we do more before 9 a.m. than most people do all day. And one of the things, like well, I'll use the example when I used to work down in Santa Clara, California, but I was actually living in Oakland. So because that journey, or it's like I can't remember exact mileage right offhand, but basically it takes a bit of time to get down there, and if you wait until close to your work time, then there's a higher percentage of chance that you're going to be late to work on a more frequent basis than you would like. Definitely more frequent than your employer would like. And so in order to just completely remove that as an option, meaning to never be late, I am not a person who will wait until it's like, like say it takes you 20 minutes to get to work. I'll leave an hour ahead of time. And that gives me the ability to, if X happens, then I can do Y. If Y happens, then I can do X. I always give myself a ton of options when it's within my capabilities to do, to make sure that there's a degree of consistency in my life. And so I oftentimes get to work well before I need to. And that completely alleviates the fact of being late to work. It just totally, so whenever I get my, like, say, annual evaluations on my day job, tardiness is not ever an issue, because I put a lot of energy and effort into making sure that I am at work ready to go well before time. Like, when as I'm doing this voiceover right now, so I recorded my video as far as like chopping up all that wood. That was done on Saturday, and I was unable to get around to doing that video. And now this is actually when I'm actually recording this voiceover is Tuesday, and right now approximately it's about 5:30 in the morning, and I'm already at work. And basically I'm always trying to figure out more efficient ways to get things done. Like in the future, I'd like to get a van and kind of build it out a bit so that it has like a little, kind of like a camper van, if you will, put some solar panels on the top. Now, now that I'm older, I'm starting to get to the point to where I'm starting to realize that some of these dreams may never be realized, but I guess I'm kind of the type of person that feels like once you stop dreaming, then you kind of already starting to wilt on the vine. But it is kind of like I guess you would say like a dream of mine to go ahead and get a van that would give me the ability to actually to create like a mobile office. And what I would do is, if I could, right? I'm not saying this is possible, because it obviously requires a lot of resources. It requires, the time, and it obviously requires more money. So if I could, I would buy me a van, and I would, do what I've seen some people on YouTube do, where I would build it out to where, maybe I'd put like a little kitchenette in it, a sitting, sleeping type area, and have it set up with some solar and everything. And I know this is like a bit much, but this is how my mind operates. And why you'll see in my garage I have the tools that I have. It's because I'm preparing for the thing that's to come. And it may never come, but the reality of the matter is, if you love the journey, then you're gonna move in a more you're gonna move in a way where you're gonna be motivated. You're gonna move in a way where you're motivated, and not everybody actually, for biblical reference, not everybody gets to the promised land. But if you can enjoy the journey, then that in of itself is a blessing. So, but yeah, I would build out a van and have it all souped up. I wouldn't really want, now if I was rich, like if I won a lottery, I would just buy one off the shelf. I would buy me a van, a camper van, a smaller one, so it fits in regular spaces, and I would actually drive that to work every day. I'm fortunate on the job that I work. We actually get like an hour lunch break, and so especially combining that with the fact that I usually get to work early, it would help me to utilize that time a lot more efficiently. And that's what I'm doing right now as I'm using the footage from Saturday, but I'm actually vlogging in my truck, you know, on Tuesday, early in the morning. And I'm trying to figure out that perfect formula where I'm actually able to. So what I would like to be able to do is to minimize the effect of me doing my woodworking and YouTube, minimize that effect on my family. And because as it is right now, it really feels like I'm working two jobs, and legitimately I am. I work my, I go to work early. I work my typical 40 hours a week. So I got transport time to work, transport time home, the early time that I, kind of miss out on because I make sure that I'm at work well before time, to avoid any kind of issues. And then trying to figure out how to allocate that time, before work in a very efficient and effective way. And I kind of felt like if I was able to build out a little van, make it into like a little pseudo office type of thing, then I could actually get a lot of, video editing for my videos done during that time, in a semi-comfortable fashion. And that could potentially move a lot of the things that I'm doing like now, because now as it is, I come home from work and I'll call it cut time, right? So going forward, I'll see if I can keep up with that acronym, but basically my cut time is simply between whenever I get home, which is around 5-ish to 7, Monday through Friday. That's all I have to cut. And so it's right now I'm super inefficient because I don't plan ahead enough because planning requires you to, be able to take in all the data, lay out all the pieces, and then select what needs to come first, second, third, or whatever. I consider myself to be a fairly decent person who prioritizes things. I consider myself to be decent. However, I don't know if life is like this for you, but for me, I've come to realize that as you get older, like when you're a young person, problems come in. Imagine like, the problems of life, almost like a video game coming in, coming closer and closer to you. And when you're younger, a problem may come one at a time, one problem at a time. And you're given the opportunity as a person to try to figure out how to navigate that problem, how to navigate that challenge, right? That's just the natural order of things. But then as life progresses, right, now it's 2 problems that come at a time, and then it's 3, and they come more rapidly, more regularly, right? And it's like playing one of those kind of shooter type games, like I can't remember the name of it, but basically like you're like the ship at the bottom of the screen and you're shooting these things that are coming down the screen, or even managing a game of Tetris where you're constantly trying to put things in a proper order so that you don't fall behind. And that's how I see life. I mean, you're progressive forward, you're trying to make plans, you're trying to get to where you want to get to in life, and the problems come in different shapes and sizes, whether it be through, an illness or of you or your family, whether it be, natural disaster, wind comes or rain or fire or whatever comes and destroys your property that you have to, these are all setbacks in life. Or, car breaks down, just different things. Or even as you go along, you go, last week you go to the gas pump, it's one price. You come back the next week, it's a totally different price, knocking you off your financial budget. And, that is life. Life is all these problems coming. And I'm always in the mindset of, okay, how do I manage this stuff in the most efficient and effective way? And, one of those applications obviously is I lose a lot of time because I make sure that I'm not late for work. So I go to work early, and I need to figure out a way to efficiently use that time prior to getting to work early. And my solution for that will be, because I don't feel like I'm economically in a position to go out and buy an RV. Well, let's put it like this. Let's say I bought the smaller RVs, the ones that kind of look like vans. Those things are substantially more pricey, even used, than say you could buy one of them old van, or not vans, old RVs that are kind of too big to be driving to work every day. So the smaller the RV with the most amenities is going to be a higher price, right? And definitely don't want to buy one new because I'm not interested in a payment. And if you buy one used, you have to consider the fact that it's going to need, auto repairs and maintenance and so on and so forth. And it may even need a whole overhaul on the inside of the actual van just due to lack of care. So, if you want to get a reasonable price, right? So when you consider all of these things, therein lies, you may want to build things around the house with your tools, but then to be able to do something like that, tools will also come in handy, both auto mechanic and, carpentry type tools. So, I'm always just trying to do things to become more proficient, more efficient, and I'm hoping that, so far it seems to be like an endless journey. I'm pushing. I'm not getting nearly as far as I would like to. There are a lot of people on YouTube that, have similar tools that I have and different things like that, but they're in a position maybe where they're actually making their money from doing YouTube videos, and they don't necessarily, work a 40-hour job that they need to manage and maintain. And since they don't work a 40-hour job that they have to manage and maintain, that means that they're able to just kind of, lean into their, I don't even want to call it a hobby, lean into their job. Right? That's what so a let me not even put it into genres as in woodworking versus not. A full-time YouTuber is making their salary just by doing YouTube. And as a result, if the more successful they are, they're able to possibly even hire help to make things work more efficiently and effectively. I, as an individual, am working a full-time job, but then I've taken up this task of, I was always doing the DIY thing on my own. I've just kind of taken it to, from basic level to, to the max, because I feel like if I have to do the work anyway, if I claim I'm going to be a DIYer, I'm going to be my own personal handyman to fix the pipe, the plumbing, to fix the drywall, to fix whatever it is I need to fix. I want to do that in the easiest way possible. And so, what I mean by that is, let's say you had some kind of major plumbing issue in your home, right? I personally, when I owned a home back in the Midwest, I had to do some copper piping at one point in time because I had, some issue. Either I rerouted something or something maybe froze. I can't remember exactly what it is. But let's say you have to do some major, type of plumbing job. Well, let's think about that, right? If you own a home, or even if you're renting a home, you can't just let that go. You can't just let things just be. And so it has to be addressed. And when you call up, a professional, they need to make, a living wage. And that's different from, one plumber to the next. And since they need to make a living wage, they're going to determine, what the cost is going to be, and you have to be the one to pay for it. Well, unfortunately, the way that at least my life has been, I can't speak for anybody else, problems of life don't seem to fall within my monthly or weekly paycheck. And what I mean by that is, like, I can be working and earn a certain amount of money. Let's knock the numbers all the way down. Let's say I make $100 a day. Well, with problems like plumbing, I'm getting a $500, $1,000 problem, which, you see the problem there. The problem happens in a day, but I'm only making $100 a day, and thus forth, that's 10 days worth of labor, and that's not sustainable unless you go into debt. So simplistically, I'm overly simplifying this situation where, okay, if I'm only making $100 a day and it costs me $1,000 to fix this plumbing problem, is there another method or mechanism that I could do? Well, with all the days that I don't have a plumbing problem, if I set aside money or buy the things that I need to fix the plumbing, to fix a plumbing problem that is not yet here yet, but I put myself in a position to where if that problem comes, I don't have to pay $1,000. And I do it over time, incrementally. I buy whatever components I need to fix basic plumbing problems that would be within my wheelhouse and my scope. And so then when life inevitably happens, and it does, that's just the way life is, eventually you're going to have a plumbing issue. I have, as opposed to going on vacation, as opposed to, doing something frivolous, I've chosen to take a portion of that $100 and invest it back into my own, security, right? Because even if I take that money, say I got that $100 and I invest a portion of it into, say, stocks and or bonds, well, that money is not liquid. I can get it back out over time or whatever, but if I sell the stock or bond, then I no longer get the benefit of the stock or bond, right? On the flip side, if I'm able to purchase, say, a tool that is going to help me to reduce my cost of something that is inevitably going to happen, because the homes that we buy or that are built here in America, they don't last for lifetime. I mean, I've mentioned it before, I believe in it on my YouTube channel, but basically, our homes won't last 30 years without maintenance. So, if you pay attention to the dots here, when you buy a home or whatever, or even, bottom line, if you're in a home and you sign a 30-year mortgage, that's not it for you. Your home is not, the cost of your home is not just how much you pay for it, how much you finance it for. Your home is also, how much money does it cost to fix the roof? How much money does it cost to take care of the So yeah, as I was saying, it's like, how much money do you have to pay to fix the roof? How much money do you have to pay to keep the electrical, adequate? How much money do you have to pay to fix the hot water heater, the air conditioning, all these different components, right? If you have a sprinkler system, fixing that, these things are going to be a lifelong, continual thing that's going to go on. Now, idealistically, using a car analogy, it would be nice, right, if you bought a brand new, nice, shiny car with a bumper-to-bumper warranty, everything's covered, and maybe you're paying a payment on it, It'd be really idealistic if you could buy it cash, but let's say you're like most people, you're paying a payment on a car, and that financially you're in a place to where um, after about 3 years or so, you're in a position where you don't take a negative step back, but you can maybe trade in that car and get another car that's under a 3-year bumper to bumper warranty or whatever the case may be, so that you never have an out of pocket expense of major auto repairs, right? And we know that some cars are lemons, so that's not 100%. But the reality of the matter is, if you had the money to do that, then you would essentially, that would be something that you just didn't have to worry about for your life. You wouldn't have to worry about like how some people that have to, like myself, I've kept my car for a long time, so I got to worry about transmission, engine, different components of the car, because I chose to keep a car for a long period of time. Now, the issue is, let's say you keep in a car for 3 years, if the price of cars goes up, it becomes more and more challenging, because when you trade your car in, you're going to get less money for that car typically. And if you didn't put a huge down payment down, you're probably, the dealership is not in business to lose money. They're in business to make money. So they're going to give you, they're going to give you a low ball offer, which basically means you're not going to really be doing as well when you buy that next car. It's not as though you buy a car at 100% and then you get 70% off of your new one when you trade it in, or not even 50% off, right? So really, you're just rolling over debt indefinitely. Our smartphones are kind of like that now too, where first they got us out of the subsidized programs where you would pay like $300, $200, at the most about $600 for a phone, but you were locked into a 2-year contract with the company, and that was the subsidy, and your phone bill was a certain amount. Well, eventually they moved away from that, and they moved to quote 0% financing for said phones, but now you have to pay for it all out of pocket. And since they know that these phones are expensive, first, it was like you could get a phone every year, but the price of phones keeps going up. And let's say you make $100,000 a year. If you buy something like a Samsung foldable, a phone annually is like 2% of your income, right? If you make $100,000 a year and you have to pay close to $2,000 for a phone, that is 2% of your income every single year. If you want a phone every year, if you're doing good financially, maybe you don't notice that as much, but for regular people, you just start to see how that's not wise, and that's not good, because it's 2% now, if you want to get the top of the line phone. Whereas before, it used to be, I think it was the iPhone was like that. If you got it under a two-year contract, it was one of the first kind of expensive phones, and it may have been like $599. So you talk about $599 stretched out over 2 years, basically meaning if you pay $599 to get the phone, but you're locked into it for 2 years, now we're up to $1,800 a year plus tax, right? That's how far we've come. We've gone from a $599 subsidized phone, 2-year contract, to now, them pushing, and with some people, and I'm guilty myself, some people, because you got your Apple phones over here, you got your Android phones over there, and you used to have Windows phones, and you're like, oh, I don't know which one to get, and a lot of phone YouTubers or people that review that type of tech, they'll have all of the phones, and that kind of prompts you as a consumer. And I know these things don't affect everybody, but it can prompt you into saying, well, let me have an Android and an Apple phone, because those are the two primary players now. And so, because you can legitimately get features on Android that you can't get on Apple, and you can legitimately get features on Apple that you can't get on Android. And so it tempts you to do that. So now, if you get the top of the line iPhone, at around $1,500–$1,600. And then you get the top of the line, let's say Samsung foldable device, which covers the bases. There's nothing you cannot do with the phone, right? And of course, this is extreme example. Well, now you're close to like 4% of your annual income if you make $100,000 a year. Now, you don't see it as much because it's like, oh, you get these little $30 a month payments, right? And, I remember at first when they did it, it was very aggressively priced in the sense to where, you could pay a certain amount of money every month, and the sale was you can upgrade your phone every year. Well, once they got you hooked into getting an upgrade every single year, then they just creep that phone price up. And even though the price is going up and they build in their little program where you could trade your phone in and get a little bit of money back or whatever the case may be, the consumer, you get so caught up in wanting that next device, that newer device, that whatever. And this is for people that do that. I know there are a lot of people that they'll stick with a flip phone, but for those that do, you just start to push basic sense to the side, and you keep upgrading because the camera that I bought 6 months ago only has 80 megapixels, but this one that just came out, it's got 120 megapixels. So there's always a reason, through marketing and jargon and so on and so forth, there's always a reason to upgrade. And on the opposite side of the equation, the company is really trying to drive growth and revenue, and the way that they drive growth and revenue is through getting you to buy as many phones as you can, even if you don't need them. If they can get you to buy a phone every month for $1,800, then that's exactly what they would do, because that means that their quarter over quarter earnings or whatever is going to be outstanding. But everybody that's got common sense knows that type of process, it's just not sustainable. It's not sustainable in the long run. Even though that's what they want to do and that's how they want to move things, it's just not sustainable. So, as an individual consumer, you have to kind of find your way off that ramp and check out. But even talking about stuff like this is not really super healthy, because you have to consider the fact that with the GDP that's heavily based on us spending money, consumerism basically, it's kind of like if you're a marketer that tells everybody they need to save their money. Well, you're kind of putting yourself out of a job, right? Well, you're making your job harder. And our society has a whole lot of contradictions like that, where on one hand it's spend, have the best. But on the flip side of that coin, it's like you need to be financially responsible. You can't have it both ways. You can't spend and make it rain and be financially responsible at the same time. And all these companies are competing with each other they're competing with each other for the same dollar in your wallet. I mean, if you switch over to streaming services, I don't even know how many streaming services there are now, but all of them are competing for that same dollar that's in your wallet. It's the same thing, when you get back into tools. All these tool companies, all these car manufacturers, all these companies are competing for that. You go to work, you earn $1. All these companies want that dollar for their purpose. As a consumer, you have to be mindful enough to figure out what serves your purpose. What's going to help you in your life? What's going to get you to where you want to be in life? And personally, I'm trying to figure that out. The one leg in that journey is the fact that I realize that things are gonna break in your life, and you either gonna pay somebody to fix it. And that goes back to the plumbing example. If you only make $100 a day, and the problem you have is $1,000 problem, that's setting you in the hole a great deal. Because even if you go finance that repair, you're not gonna now just pay that 1,000. You're gonna pay that 1,000 plus interest, right? And the more things in life does not just hand you one problem and that's it. You know, you get one problem annually, one problem every 10 or 15 years. No, these problems just keep coming in. So life demands that you become more efficient. Life demands that you become more effective. If you don't, you're either going to become a bandit, which means you're going to be robbing and attacking other people to make ends meet, or you're going to become a vagrant, right? And be on the street somewhere, right? Or be in some position in between there, living in squalor, simply because the nature of life is that problems come. And as problems come, it's like, okay, how do you manage this problem? How do you manage that problem? How do you manage that problem over there? And the problems of life actually make it challenging for us to even keep up, you know, with our neighbors. And what I mean by that is, you and your neighbor may have the same job. You may live in the same neighborhood, right? So you have the same economic status, same baseline. You should live in the same, you know, cul-de-sac, whatever. But one of you has a medical problem and the other one's perfectly healthy. You're not fair. I mean, you're not on level playing ground. One of you has a child and they have one child. The other one goes to have a child and they end up with twins. You're no longer on the same economic platform, right? And so in order to have the same as what someone else have, you have to, you know, increase what you're able to do. Or for most of us, because we have, you know, we're not rich, you have to figure out how to make things stretch further and to go in multiple different directions. In some cases, that simply means going back to the basics. And by the basics, I mean, you have to essentially, you know, using a food analogy, you may end up learning that, wait a minute, if I have space, let me go get some chickens and raise the chickens, and the chickens will reproduce, and the chickens will lay eggs, and the chickens will provide me eggs if I'm willing to do the work. Because I have to manage the chickens now. If I get the chickens, I have to manage them. If I don't manage them, then they're just going to die and it's not going to help me. But if I take my free time, that I have a choice to do it. I can do whatever I want with my free time. And I choose to go get some chickens and manage those chickens. And if I manage them well, I will have chicken meat to eat. I would have eggs to eat, right? And if I do it really well, I may even have chicken and eggs to sell or to pass on to friends and family, which does multiple things. You know, you can have kind of like a bartering system where, you know, maybe you have a relative who's a carpenter and you give them eggs and provide them eggs on a regular basis because you're managing your chickens, and they come over and they fix your toilet, right? The handyman. And so you start to understand that the more skills that you acquire, one skill being a handyman, another skill raising chickens, another skill knowing how to work on a car, these things can be, you know, utilized as bartering chips, if you will. But even if you didn't barter, even if you didn't do anything for anyone else, right? If you yourself put in the effort to raise chickens, if you put in the effort to raise chickens, then you yourself will not have to worry when the price in the market goes up and they're charging, you know, a lot more for chicken eggs or for chicken meat. It no longer affects you because, obviously if I don't know how many chickens you would have to start with because I haven't done much research into that, but let's say you get 2 chickens and they procreate and they create a certain amount of chickens, and you end up learning the number of how many chickens you would need to grow up to where basically you would have an endless amount of chickens to eat, to slaughter, to eat, and an endless amount of chicken eggs to eat. So now you've taken care of, that could be your protein right there in your life. That could be your protein. And then, you move on and maybe you start planting some, some fruits and vegetables, and then, that further takes care of your economics, your economic status from that angle. Same thing if you're living in a house. In order to prevent having catastrophic events, you get ahead of the game and you start teaching yourself in your free time. Instead of just using all your free time just to blow it off, you use your free time to learn things and to, mitigate expenses, because when the problem comes, it's going to be kind of too late. And when it's too late, it's going to be pretty expensive. That's just the bottom line. Life could be expensive. But anyways, guys, I'm rambling on here. And thanks for taking the time to listen to the video. And I will see you in my next one. Take care.